What's going on, Dodgers faithful? You know what? I've been getting messages all morning. People asking me if the front office is actually serious this offseason or if they're just going through the motions. And let me tell you something right now, after what just went down in the last 48 hours, I think we finally have our answer. This isn't your typical offseason where they're sitting back, relaxing after a championship, letting other teams make all the noise. No, no, no. The Dodgers are coming out swinging, and honestly, some of these decisions have me more hyped than I've been in years. Before we dive deep into all of this, I need you to do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button right now because we're about to break down every single angle of these moves. And trust me, you don't want to miss a second of what's coming this offseason. We're going to be your #1 source for every rumor, every confirmed signing, every trade whisper that comes out of Dodger Stadium. Alright, so let's talk about what just happened because the Dodgers had some serious decisions to make. And I'm not gonna lie, there was legitimate speculation about which direction they'd go. You've got Max Muncy with that $10 million club option, and you know what some people were saying, right? They were saying, maybe it's time to move on, maybe the injuries are piling up, maybe at 35 years old, he's not the same player anymore. But you know what the front office did? They looked at the numbers, they looked at what Muncy brings to this clubhouse, and they said, absolutely, we're picking up that option. And honestly, when you break down why they did it, it makes complete sense. $10 million for a guy who, when healthy, put up 3.6 wins above replacement last season. Do you understand how insane that value is in today's market? Think about it like this. Right now, if you're paying for one win above replacement on the open market, you're looking at somewhere between $7 and $8 million per win. That's just the going rate. So when you do the math on Muncy's production, he's actually worth somewhere between $23 and $25 million based on his on-field performance alone. The Dodgers are getting him for $10 million. That's highway robbery. That's the kind of deal that championship organizations make when other teams are out there overpaying for name value or potential that might never materialize. And look, I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking about that brutal start he had last season. The first month of the year was legitimately painful to watch. 29 games, hitting .194, only one home run, and it looked like maybe Father Time had finally caught up to him. I remember the conversations we were having on this channel back in May. People were genuinely worried that this might be it, that Muncy might be cooked. But here's what separates the great organizations from the mediocre ones. The Dodgers didn't panic. They trusted their player development system, they trusted their coaching staff, and most importantly, they trusted Max Muncy to figure it out. And figure it out he did. After that rough first month, Muncy went absolutely nuclear for the rest of the season. We're talking about 71 games of legitimately elite production. A 161 weighted runs created plus, which means he was 61% better than league average during that stretch. 18 home runs in basically half a season's worth of games. An OPS that put him right up there with some of the best hitters in baseball during that time frame. That's not just good, that's borderline MVP caliber production. And this is a guy who's been through the wars, who's dealt with injuries, who's had to adjust his game multiple times throughout his career. The fact that he can still flip that switch and put up those kinds of numbers tells you everything you need to know about his work ethic and his baseball IQ. This is a cerebral player who understands the game at a level that most guys never reach. When he's locked in at the plate, he's one of the most dangerous hitters in the National League, period. Now, I've seen some chatter online about maybe pursuing Munetaka Murakami from Japan. And look, I get it. The appeal of adding an international star is always exciting. But let me be real with you for a second. Anyone telling you that Murakami is a third baseman doesn't really know what they're talking about. His defensive metrics in Japan suggest he's much better suited as a DH or maybe a first baseman. And his offensive numbers have been trending down over the last couple seasons. Meanwhile, you've got a proven commodity in Muncy who's been there, done that, got the ring, and is still producing at an elite level when he's on the field. Why would you create a problem where one doesn't exist? The Dodgers looked at this situation and made the smart, logical decision that winning organizations make. They valued production, they valued clubhouse presence, and they valued continuity. Speaking of continuity, let's talk about Alex Vesia because this one had me emotional, not gonna lie. $3.5 million to bring back one of the absolute heart and soul guys in that bullpen. If you watch this team all season long, you know exactly what Alex Vesia means to this roster. This isn't just about the numbers, although the numbers are fantastic. 59 and 2/3 innings, 3.02 ERA, 33.8% strikeout rate. Those are legitimate shutdown numbers from a left-handed reliever, which by the way is one of the most valuable commodities in baseball. But what really makes Vesia special is the intangibles, the fire, the emotion, the way he attacks every single at-bat like it's the 7th game of the World Series. This guy bleeds Dodger blue, and everyone in that clubhouse feeds off his energy. And we have to acknowledge what he went through during the World Series, missing that entire series because of a family emergency. And we're still sending our thoughts and prayers to Alex and his family during what I can only imagine is an incredibly difficult time. But the fact that the Dodgers brought him back, that they made it clear he's a crucial part of this team's future, that speaks volumes about the kind of organization this is. They take care of their guys, they value loyalty, they value character, and they value what players bring beyond just their on-field statistics. When Vesia comes back next season, and he will be back, that bullpen is going to rally around him in a way that you can't quantify with advanced metrics. That's the kind of stuff that wins championships. That's the kind of culture that separates dynasties from teams that just happen to win once and then fade away. Let me throw something at you that I don't think enough people are talking about. The Dodgers could have declined Vesia's option and still controlled him through arbitration, where he probably would have made somewhere between $4 and $6 million and $4.2 million. Instead, they picked up the option at $3.5 million, which means they're actually saving money compared to what arbitration likely would have cost them. That's front office brilliance right there. That's Andrew Friedman playing chess while other GMs are playing checkers. You get to bring back a beloved player. You create goodwill in the clubhouse, you maintain continuity in a crucial bullpen role, and you do it while actually saving money compared to the alternative. Show me another organization executing moves like that on a consistent basis. I'll wait. Now, here's where things get really interesting, and this is where I want you to pay close attention, because I think this move tells us a lot about what the Dodgers are planning for the rest of the offseason. They added Ryan Ward to the 40-man roster. Ryan Ward, for those who don't know, is a 27-year-old outfielder who absolutely raked at AAA Oklahoma City last season. 36 home runs, 937 OPS, and he did it while showing legitimate plate discipline and power to all fields. This is not some organizational depth piece. This is a guy with legitimate major league talent who just needed an opportunity. And for the longest time during the season, a lot of us were scratching our heads, wondering why he wasn't getting called up, especially when Michael Conforto was struggling so badly for stretches of the year. The answer, we were told, was defense. Ward's defensive metrics at the minor league level were rough, and the Dodgers apparently didn't feel comfortable throwing him into games at Dodger Stadium where defense can be the difference between winning and losing playoff games. But here's what's fascinating about this move now. By adding him to the 40-man roster, the Dodgers are protecting him from the Rule 5 draft, which means they see him as a legitimate asset going forward. But it also opens up some really interesting possibilities. Maybe they're planning to give him a legitimate shot in spring training. Maybe they're developing trade ammunition because Ward's offensive profile is exactly what a lot of rebuilding teams covet. Or maybe, and this is the most intriguing possibility, they're planning to use him as a DH or in a limited defensive role where his bat can play up. Think about it this way, the Dodgers have shown repeatedly that they'll tolerate below average defense if the offensive production is there. Teoscar Hernandez isn't winning any Gold Gloves, and they just brought him back because his bat is too valuable to lose. Max Muncy isn't exactly a defensive wizard at third base anymore, but his offensive production more than makes up for any defensive shortcomings. So why couldn't Ryan Ward follow that same blueprint? What if he comes to spring training and hits 300 with 8 home runs in Cactus League play? What if he forces the Dodgers to find at-bats for him because his bat is just too good to leave in AAA? I'm not saying it's guaranteed to happen, but the fact that they protected him tells me they're at least open to the possibility. And honestly, I love mystery boxes like this. I love when the Dodgers take chances on guys who have the tools but just need the opportunity to prove themselves at the highest level. You want to know what really gets me excited about all of this? It's the philosophy behind these moves. The Dodgers aren't just making decisions based on this season or next season. They're thinking 3, 4, 5 years down the line. They're building sustainable excellence, which is so much harder than just going all in for 1 year and hoping everything breaks right. Look at teams like the Angels who keep making win now moves that never actually result in winning. Compare that to what the Dodgers do. They identify value, they develop talent, they make smart financial decisions that allow them to be aggressive in multiple areas simultaneously. That's how you build a dynasty. That's how you go from 1 championship to potentially 3 in a row, which is absolutely on the table for this organization right now. Let's talk about the 40-man roster situation, because this is where things get really complicated, and this is where Andrew Friedman really earns his money. Right now, the Dodgers are sitting at about 33 players on the 40-man roster, which gives them some flexibility, but not as much as you might think. They've got free agents they need to make decisions on. They've got guys coming off the 60-day injured list who need to be activated or moved off the roster entirely. They've got arbitration cases to handle, and on top of all of that, they're going to be major players in free agency, which means they need to keep spots open for potential additions. Someone like Teoscar Hernandez, who they just brought back. Someone like Clayton Kershaw if he decides to come back for another year. Plus whatever moves they make on the pitching front, whether that's starting rotation depth or bullpen additions. Every single roster spot matters, and the Dodgers are going to have to make some tough decisions. Guys like Esty Ruiz, who showed some promise but might not have a clear path to playing time. Utility players who were valuable depth pieces but might be redundant if the Dodgers add more versatile players. Relief pitchers who had down years and might be DFA candidates if the team feels they can upgrade. These aren't easy decisions, and fans get attached to players, but this is the business side of baseball that championship organizations have to navigate better than everyone else. You can't be sentimental. You have to be ruthless in pursuit of excellence. And as much as it might hurt to see some familiar faces leave, if it means the Dodgers are putting themselves in the best possible position to win another World Series, then it's the right move every single time. Here's something I want to address, because I've seen it pop up in the comments section and on social media. Some people are questioning whether the Dodgers are getting too old, whether they're relying too heavily on veterans who might break down or decline. And look, I understand that concern on the surface level. Max Muncy is going to be 35. Clayton Kershaw is in his late 30s if he comes back. Freddie Freeman isn't getting any younger, but here's what that criticism misses completely. The Dodgers aren't just a team of aging veterans. They've got one of the best farm systems in baseball. They've got young talent like Bobby Miller, who had some struggles last year but has ace potential. They've got Gavin Stone emerging as a legitimate middle of the rotation starter. They've got position players developing in the minors who could contribute as soon as this year. The Dodgers are simultaneously competing for championships right now while also building for the future. That's incredibly difficult to do, and most organizations fail miserably when they try to walk that tightrope. But the Dodgers have the resources, the player development infrastructure, and the front office acumen to pull it off. And let's not forget the elephant in the room, Shohei Ohtani. The greatest player in baseball is entering year 2 of his Dodgers career, and he's going to be on the mound next season. Think about what that means for this roster. You're adding a legitimate ace-level starting pitcher to a rotation that already has depth and talent. That's a game changer. That potentially means you can move someone to the bullpen for playoff flexibility. That means you can afford to take chances on high-upside pitching prospects because you've got such a strong foundation at the top of the rotation. The Ohtani signing wasn't just about getting an elite hitter, it was about fundamentally changing the calculus of how this roster can be constructed, and we're about to see the fruits of that in year 2. Let me talk about something that doesn't get discussed enough when we analyze these offseason moves. Chemistry and clubhouse culture. The Dodgers could go out and sign the most talented roster in baseball, but if those guys don't mesh, if there's ego clashes, if there's a lack of leadership, it doesn't matter how good the individual pieces are. What the Muncy and Vezina moves tell me is that the front office values what those guys bring beyond their statistical contributions. Muncy is a leader. He's a guy who younger players look up to and learn from. Vezina is the heart and soul of that bullpen, the guy who sets the tone with his energy and his competitiveness. When you keep those kinds of players around, when you prioritize culture alongside talent, you create an environment where everyone elevates their game. That's not some abstract concept. That's real, tangible value that shows up in October when the pressure is at its highest. Think about the 2024 playoff run. Think about the moments when the Dodgers had their backs against the wall and needed someone to step up. Time and time again, it was the veterans who came through. It was Max Muncy homering off one of the toughest relievers in baseball to give the team hope in a crucial game. It was the steady presence of guys who'd been there before, who understood what it takes to win in the postseason. You can't teach that. You can't develop that in the minor leagues. You only get that through experience, through going through the fire multiple times and coming out the other side. So when people question whether bringing back these veterans is the right move, I want them to understand what they're really questioning. They're questioning whether experience, leadership, and proven performance under pressure matters. And if you think it doesn't, I don't know what to tell you. Now let's shift gears and talk about what's coming next, because these first moves are just the appetizer. The real meal is about to be served, and it's going to be one heck of a feast. The Dodgers have needs. They could use another starting pitcher, preferably someone who can eat innings and give them length. The bullpen could always use an upgrade, especially if they want to have multiple elite relievers to lean on in high leverage situations. The outfield depth chart could be solidified with another proven bat. And there's always the wild card possibility of a blockbuster trade that nobody sees coming. That's what makes this offseason so exciting. The Dodgers have the financial flexibility to be aggressive. They have the prospects to make trades if they want to. And they have a front office that's willing to be creative and think outside the box. I want you to think about the possibilities here. What if the Dodgers went out and traded for a controllable starting pitcher like Corbin Burnes? What if they made a run at bringing back one of their former players who's become available on the trade market? What if they surprised everyone by signing an international free agent that nobody had connected to them? The beauty of this offseason is that anything feels possible. The Dodgers aren't constrained by budget concerns the way some other teams are. They're not handcuffed by bad contracts or a depleted farm system. They can literally do whatever they think gives them the best chance to win, and that should terrify every other team in the National League. Here's my prediction, and you can hold me to this. The Dodgers are going to make at least 2 more significant moves before spring training. I think they're going to add a starting pitcher, someone who can slot in as a number 3 or 4 starter and give them reliability over the course of a full season. I think they're going to add at least 1 more bullpen arm, someone with late inning experience who can complement what they already have. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if they pulled off a trade that catches everyone off guard, something that seems to come out of nowhere but makes perfect sense once you see the full picture. That's how Andrew Friedman operates. That's how the Dodgers have remained at the top of the sport for over a decade now. They're always thinking one step ahead, always planning for contingencies, always looking for that edge that other teams miss. You know what I love most about this offseason so far? The decisiveness. The Dodgers didn't waffle on these decisions. They didn't leak information to gauge public reaction. They looked at the situation, evaluated their options, and made clear, confident decisions. That might seem like a small thing, but it sets the tone for everything else that happens this winter. It tells free agents that this organization knows what it wants and moves with purpose. It tells other GMs that if you want to make a deal with the Dodgers, you better be ready to move quickly because they're not going to wait around. And it tells the fan base that this team is serious about defending their championship and chasing history. 3 World Series titles in a row. It's been done before, but not in the modern era with the playoff format we have now. The Dodgers have a legitimate chance to do something truly special, something that would cement this era as one of the greatest runs in baseball history. Let's talk about the money for a second, because I know that's always a topic of conversation when it comes to the Dodgers. Yes, they have financial advantages. Yes, they can spend more than most teams. But here's what people forget when they criticize the Dodgers for spending money. They spend it smartly. They're not out there handing out terrible contracts to over-the-hill veterans, hoping to squeeze out one more productive year. They're not overpaying for players just because they're available. Every move the Dodgers make has logic behind it, has analytical support, has a clear reason for why it makes the team better. The Muncy option was a bargain. The Vezina option was a value play. Even when they make big splashes like the Ohtani signing, there's a method to it. The deferred money structure allows them to remain flexible for years to come. That's smart. That's sustainable. That's how you maintain excellence over the long term, rather than just having 1 or 2 good years before you have to tear it down and rebuild. I want to address something I've been seeing in the comments, and it's this idea that the Dodgers are in win now mode and mortgaging their future. That's just not accurate. The farm system is still loaded with talent. The minor league coaches and development staff are still among the best in baseball. The Dodgers aren't sacrificing their future to win now. They're doing both simultaneously, which is extraordinarily difficult, but that's what elite organizations do. Look at what the Tampa Bay Rays do on a shoestring budget. Now imagine that same philosophy, but with the Dodgers resources. That's what we're watching. That's why they're able to compete for championships every single year, while also maintaining one of the strongest pipelines of young talent in the sport. The Ryan Ward move is a perfect example of this. They're protecting a 27-year-old minor leaguer who might never play a game in the majors, but who has enough upside that they don't want to risk losing him. That's thinking about the future. That's betting on development and potential. Meanwhile, they're bringing back proven veterans who give them the best chance to win right now. Both things can be true at the same time, and the Dodgers are proof of that. So when people try to create this false narrative that it's either win now or build for the future, push back on that. Tell them to look at what the Dodgers are actually doing, rather than what they assume is happening based on lazy analysis. As we move deeper into the offseason, I want you to keep a few things in mind. First, not every move the Dodgers make is going to be splashy. Some of the most important decisions happen quietly behind the scenes. Second, trust the process. Andrew Friedman and his staff have earned the benefit of the doubt. They've made this team a perennial contender. They've won championships. When they make a move that doesn't immediately make sense to us, there's usually a reason for it that becomes clear later. And third, enjoy this. Enjoy watching a competently run organization that prioritizes winning above everything else. Enjoy knowing that your team is never going to settle for mediocrity. Enjoy the fact that every offseason brings new possibilities and new reasons to be excited about what's coming next. Before we wrap this up, I want to give you my bold prediction for this offseason. I think the Dodgers are going to shock people with how aggressive they are. I think they're going to make a move that has everyone talking, something that maybe pushes them over the luxury tax threshold even further than they already are. And I think when we look back on this offseason in March, we're going to see a roster that's even better than the one that just won the World Series. That might sound crazy to some people, but this is what the Dodgers do. They don't rest on their laurels. They don't get complacent. They see winning a championship as the baseline expectation, not the ceiling. And that mindset, that relentless pursuit of excellence, is what separates them from everyone else. Alright, Dodgers fans, that's where I'm gonna leave it for today. We've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about the Muncy decision and why it makes perfect sense. We've discussed Alex Vesia and what he means to this team beyond just his statistics. We've dove into the Ryan Ward move and what it might signal about the Dodgers' plans going forward. And we've set the table for what should be an absolutely fascinating rest of the offseason. I want to hear from you in the comments. What do you think about these moves? Are you excited about the direction this team is heading? What other moves do you want to see the Dodgers make before spring training? Drop your thoughts below because I read every single comment and I love hearing what you all think about this team we all love. And hey, if you're not already subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and make sure you don't miss a single update as we track every move, every rumor, every development throughout this entire offseason. This is going to be a wild ride, and I want you all here with me for every second of it. Thanks for watching, thanks for being part of this community, and I'll see you in the next one. Go Dodgers!